friends. First of all, excuse my voice because I'm having a cold right now and my throat is a bit sore. But this tag has been on my to-do list for a very long time. And since I have prepared all the answers, I wanted to do it anyway. This Tuesday, I'm going to do your favorite 10 album covers tag. This tag was originally created by Samuel Daram. And I was tagged by Samuel Daram. Thank you, Samuel, for tagging me once again in one of your wonderful tags. The reason that it took so long to do that, because I really wanted to prepare for this tag and find the album covers that I needed to put in this video. I will link Samuel's original video down below. He was, of course, much more prepared for this video than me. I think you should watch it. The first part of this tag is a discussion part. The first question in the discussion part is what kind of music did you listen when you were 13 years old? I was 13 years old in 1989 and I mostly listened to pop music. My favorite singers were Madonna, George Michael, Debbie Gibson, New Kids on the Block, Cher, Richard Marx, Belinda Carlisle, Paula Abdul, Bangles, and I had a favorite rock band because my brother and my parents were big fans of it, and I really enjoyed their work as well. I was a big fan of Queen as well at that time. Mostly listened to songs in English, and they were all sorts of popular musics. I preferred the slower songs most of the times, and my favorite song at that time was The Careless Whisper by George Michael, Lost in Your Eyes by Debbie Gibson, and Right Here Waiting by Richard Marx. I used to listen to them on the radio, and I made mixtapes by using the radio. I had many mixtapes. By mixtapes, I mean the cassettes. We used to record the songs in the radio to the cassette recorders, and then we used to play these cassettes in the cassette player part. In those songs, sometimes the advertisements of the radio program was also heard, and it was much more expensive to get albums in 1989 in Turkey, especially the albums in foreign languages. And the second question in this part is how do you listen to music right now? I mostly listen to music on Spotify and YouTube, and I choose the musics by writing, writing on the search buttons of both of those applications. And my music tastes have changed a lot in the years. I still like a good slow rock ballad and a good love song from almost every artist. But right now I mostly prefer Turkish classical music and Turkish nostalgic music, actually, the ones that were produced in 1960s and 70s. And I also like opera as well, and I go to opera and classical music concerts very often. But when I was preparing for the tag, and I looked at some of the favorite songs of 1989, and I knew them all by heart, so I still feel very connected to those times as well. Third question is actually a bit related to what I said. Are you nostalgic about those years? Yes, of course I'm nostalgic about those years, because in those years we connected, I mostly connected with the other people through music. We had similar music tastes, most of us in the school. Listening to music at that time was like reading to me at this time. Now I connect through books, and at that time I connected through listening to the same music, the same songs, the same love songs. Because I was a teenager, I was obsessed with, of course, love, and how I could find a romantic love that would take me away from all of those times. And the songs were so romantic. And I was so innocent at that time, and I missed that innocence as well. The second part of the tag says that we should list our 10 favorite album covers and what they mean to me as a music listener. Mostly going to choose the covers, the album covers from 1990s, and in 1990s and in 2000s, because the albums were much more cheaper in Turkey at that time, I could buy a lot of albums, and I'm going to describe how my taste in music evolved through the years with those albums. First of all, I'm going to talk about the Turkish pop. Turkish pop in 1980s was not very popular. There were some songs that could be considered as popular songs, but most of the time there was a music trend called arabesque, and it contained very sad songs and depressive songs, and of course they did not relate to me as a teenager. Actually, 1989, the year I was 13, was a very interesting year. It was the last year that I only listened to music in English. And beginning from 1990, I started to listen to the new Turkish pop music culture. And the first album that I bought was Sevgiliye by Aşkın Nur Yengi. In this album, I first saw the music that I liked, but it was in Turkish. Of course, I immediately connected with it, and the music quality was almost the same as the English ones that I listened. And this album was very dear to me in terms of introducing me to the Turkish pop music. After being introduced to Turkish pop music, I listened to many Turkish pop singers at that time. And in 1994, I saw a very handsome man on the TV who danced like George Michael, my favorite singer of all times, my childhood crush actually. And I'm going to talk more about him in the later part of this video. Tarkan, and his song was called Oynama Şıkıdım Şıkıdım. And I immediately bought his album because I was so in awe of his handsomeness as well as his music. And his album is actually one of the best albums I think produced in that decade, because it contained slow songs, dancing songs, and he has one of the best voices, and he's actually one of the artists that survived through that time. He currently produces music in 2020 as well, because he's a very talented singer and a very charismatic personality. Third album that I'm going to talk about in those times was an album by Sibel Alaş called Femme. Unfortunately, this talented singer was a one album wonder, but her album was so high in the music quality, I could not believe what I heard. There is a song in that album which is called Adam, meaning man in Turkish, and the music is good, the lyrics are wonderful, the clip at that time was incredibly beautiful in aesthetics, and I think that was the highest point of Turkish pop music. And then things started to fall apart gradually after this album in 1996. And the second set of albums that I'm going to talk about, the compilation albums of the artists that I like very much. The first one I'm going to talk about is actually another Turkish singer, Barış Manço. He was a very famous singer when I was a little girl, and he made wonderful programs for children, but my parents also used to watch his program and love it very much, because he traveled through the world, which was not very common in Turkish TV at that time. He was a frontier in many ways. His music is relatable at every time of the year. My nephew of 14 years used to love him when he was a little boy, and he still adores him. Unfortunately, Barış Manço passed away even before he was born. And my little nephew, who's 5 years old, also really likes his songs, because he has a song that is relatable for everyone, as I've said before. And his album Manchology was like his greatest hits. It was produced after he was dead in 1990. The second album that I'm going to talk about is The Greatest Hits by Queen. We bought this album and we listened to it many times. And I lent it to many of my friends in the university as well. This album was first produced in 1981, but I think it was reproduced in 1992, and that's why when we bought it. And it contains all the beautiful songs of Queen, and I cannot praise Queen enough. And I think they do not need my praise as well, because their songs are sung in everywhere, even in Turkey, where majority of the people do not speak English. So that shows how great they were. And the next album that I'm going to talk about is another greatest hits album, Aretha Franklin's greatest hits album. I really do like soul music. I was a very big fan of Aretha Franklin when I was a young adult, because she sang about strong woman, and I was trying to find my footing as a strong woman at that time, and she spoke so much to me as a singer who sings about strong woman. And her song R-E-S-P-E-C-T, Respect, is one of my favorite songs ever. And like Aretha Franklin's greatest hits album, George Michael's greatest hits album was also produced in 1998. What can I say about George Michael? I've already said that he was my childhood crush when I was a little girl. I liked his voice, his style of singing, the way he portrays his emotions, his dancing at Fate. I don't know what to say about that, because that was the first time that I've noticed how beautiful a man can dance. I was completely in love at that time. When his album came out, of course I wanted to buy it. I still listen to it when I'm feeling a bit blue. I think he was one of the best male singers in the world. Aside from all those greatest hits, I found an album that I liked in one of the thrift stores. It was actually produced in 1989, and it's not a greatest hits album. But as I've said before, I used to really like Belinda Carlisle, and I bought it at that time, and I used to listen to it like crazy, even though it has been, I think, 5 years since it was produced at that time. And I knew all the songs by heart. I used to love the lyrics at that album. All of them were, I think, fantastic. Also really liked the woman that I saw in the TV. And our last two albums, actually a reflection of how my taste in music changed to more classical style. I have mentioned before, I lived in UK for 10 months in 2006 and 2007, and I only brought one album with me, Candan Erçetin's Aman Doktor. Candan Erçetin was also a singer that was first emerged in 1990s during the big pop revolution, Turkish pop revolution. But she took a different path after producing more popular albums, and I'm a big fan of her popular albums as well. I still listen to them because they are so emotional. But this album had a different meaning to me. The album was produced in 2005, and she sang the same melodies in Turkish and in Greek, because there was an exchange between Turkish minority in Greece and Greek minority in Turkey in the first years of the Republic. Which are actually very similar. After the big earthquake in 1999 in Turkey, Greeks came to our help first. This put out the Cold War between Greek and Turkey at that time, and this album is actually a proof of how similar we have lived, how similar our cultures are, how similar our music is. My grandparents also came to Turkey from a Greek island, Crete, at the time of that exchange that I've talked about. So this album meant a lot to me, and I also really do like the melodies. And fun fact, the one that I use for Turkish Word of the Day is actually a melody that has both Turkish lyrics and Greek lyrics again, because it was produced in the Aegean side of Turkey where I was living, and it was logical that I brought this album to England because it so much felt like home when I was listening to Candan Erçetin's songs at that album. And lastly, I'm going to talk about an album that I bought actually in UK called All the Time Greatest Movie Songs. This album was actually produced in 1999, but I bought it in 2007. Anyhow, it doesn't really matter because it contains many wonderful songs from classic and modern classic movies. I do enjoy all of the songs in that 2-disc album, and that shows how my music taste became more and more classical through the years. And after, I think, 2007, I didn't buy any albums, so there was not an album that was significant to me from that date on. I'm not going to tag any special booktuber. I'm going to tag all of you who want to do this tag. It's a really fun tag, but it actually needs a bit of preparation. Made a bit of time travel while I was doing that tag, and I really enjoyed it, by the way. Thank you, Samuel, for tagging me again. Even if you do not want to do this tag, please comment down below who was your favorite singer or band when you were 13, and what do you think about my answers? And also, if you're a new viewer, please like and subscribe. Hope to see you very soon. Bye! As for Turkish Word of the Day, since the name of the tag is your favorite 10 album covers tag, I think cover should be the word of the day. Cover means kapak in Turkish, and kapak is our Turkish word of the day. Have a good day!